Hello, wonderful Psych 1 students. This is Mr. Ray. Welcome to our first online lesson. I'll be putting out these as much as I can coming forward, so we can still get some awesome psych learning in while we're not in school. Again, none of this stuff is mandatory, but I wanted to give you guys an option to do it, just so if you are bored at home like I am, you have some good stuff to do. So I do hope you guys are all doing really well. I do miss you a lot. I wish we were in school together. I've mostly just been hanging out at home, getting some things done around my house, for work, a lot of various things. I gave my dog a bath this morning, which was a lot of fun for me, not so much for her. She was kind of upset about it, but we've been passing the time and staying safe. So we're going to jump right into it. Today we're going to talk about cultural behavior. It's going to be a continuation of our socio-cultural unit that we started and we're in the middle of before we went out for school. So you will need a sheet of paper and a pen or pencil or something to write on today. So if you don't have that on you right now, I'd just tell you pause the video real quick, go grab it, come back. We're going to do a little activity halfway through the video, so it'll be fun. All right, so before we went out of break, we talked about culture. Then we defined it as the connecting of people. Okay? However you are connecting people, any way you are connecting people, there is culture established there. And what is established in the culture are things like values, behaviors, and beliefs. Especially, we talked about shallow versus deep culture. These ideas, I'm going to get my laser pointer on. So unfortunately, I can't shine it in any of your guys' faces when you're not looking at my screen, but I can still have it on here. But anyways, values, beliefs, behaviors, those are your deep cultures. Okay, those are the things that we can't necessarily see, but I think they are more influential on our behavior than things like what type of clothes we wear or what food we eat. Okay? And you can find culture in any group that there is, whether it's big or small, whether it's something at school, at large, a whole country, anything like that, there's culture established. Through culture, we see things called cultural norms. Okay, what cultural norms are the set of rules based on shared beliefs within a culture that establish how you should behave to be a part of that culture. So, for example, let's say our culture at Reagan, we have a very, very, very specific set of rules or norms that you follow. One of those apparently is to take the yellow pass and just wander into any teacher's room that you want, even though it's supposed to just be for the bathroom. Okay, that's kind of a cultural thing at Reagan, specifically looking at people like that always find their way into my 5B class, like all of you that should be in Mr. Larson-Rawls but end up in my room. I'm not going to call you out over YouTube, but you know who you are. So those cultural norms, okay, those are established and measured through our cultural dimensions, which is what we had just finished doing before we left. So just to review our 6 cultural dimensions, again, these are things that kind of determine where a culture falls on different values, beliefs, ideologies, anything like that. So power distance index is their view of authority, their respect for authority, how much they value authority. Individualism versus collectivism, again, that's more emphasis on the individual person. Hey, more focus on the group is collectivism. We'll look at an example of those. Uncertainty avoidance index is just how likely they are to engage in risky behaviors. Masculinity versus femininity, again, masculinity is more of those focused on accomplishments, where femininity is more focused on relationships. Long-term versus short-term, again, what is best for the group moving forward, what is best for the group moving now or right now. And then indulgence versus restraint, that's essentially just the strictness, how likely they are to try new things, engage in maybe some not traditional behaviors, whereas restraint would be more strict rules, very, very, very structured, rigid, that kind of thing. Okay, so where we see this is in, for example, individualism and collectivism. These influence our behaviors in these ways. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but if we look at something, for instance, like everyone has a right to privacy, okay, that would fall under an individualistic culture, because we're saying that everyone has the right to withhold any information that they want. They can have some privacy if they true that it's more valuable to them, because the focus is on the individual. Whereas a collectivist society, you might not get privacy you wanted because, again, it's about the group, not the person. So you can pause it and look through these if you want. I'm not going to read through all of them, but those are just some ways that those different cultural dimensions would shape our behavior. So then what we get in our world, okay, and obviously there's different cultures besides geographical locations, but we end up with different cultures all around the world. And even within our own country, there's different cultures in the southeast, southwest, northwest, northeast, the Midwest, like the mountain region, whatever. You want to say, okay, there are all kinds of different cultures because of these cultural dimensions. And it makes it really unique. It makes things really awesome. But there are a lot of things that are shared between these, and we're going to kind of talk about why that is. So how do we learn these behaviors of our culture? Well, for the most part, hey, it is done through observational learning. Or let's go, Brian, what theory have we covered that says we learn by seeing? Social cognitive theory. Man, two and a half weeks away and you're still rocking it. Great job, Brian. Hope your knee's feeling better. Anyways, we see most of the time our family members or the people who are higher up in our group behaving in a certain way, and then we simply just mimic those behaviors. That's that social cognitive learning. Okay? And there's two ways that our culture is kind of shaped and formed, and that's enculturation and enculturation. And they are different, so make sure you know the difference between the two. Enculturation is the process of adopting or internalizing the schemas of your culture. So I know I said it correctly. I said schema, not schema, like I have. I've learned while on quarantine. Anyways, but enculturation, again, we are, as a kid, we are born, we start observing things around us. We start mimicking those behaviors because that is what our norm is in our culture, and we see that and we're able to replicate that. And that's how we learn those cultural norms, is through going through this process. Acculturation happens when you have two different cultures that meet. And there's different things that influence whether this happens or not, but you have two different cultures coming in contact with each other, and then they end up adopting their norms or behaviors as their own. So even though you might have two, I like to use sports teams as my example as always. Let's say you have two sports teams. They could come together, they could meet, talk, and they could say, okay, I really like that they do this. We're going to take that and use it in our culture. So now, even though Group A still has their original culture, they are now taking some of what Group B has, and that makes their culture unique now. So it is kind of a mixing pot. It's a blend. It's a process. It's not all fixated. But these are kind of the two ways that our culture, we learn it, and we have it start influencing our behavior. So an example of this, hey, we're going to look at some research. So Odin and I think it's Rashad. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but they studied the role of social cognitive learning theory. Thank you, Brian, for shouting that out to us. Or observational learning on the development of cultural norms in Samoa. In particular, they looked at the behavior of line fishing and conceptual understanding of rank and hierarchy. The researchers carried out a longitudinal study of 25 months on 28 children in a single Samoan village. Samoan culture is very hierarchical. It has a very high power distance index. This includes the rank of a parent and a child. Social norms limit the amount of time spent between adults and children. Parents have a largely non-interventionist approach to their children and their learning. Samoan children are largely left to learn things on their own without adults attempting to motivate or organize their learning. As fishing lines, spears, and nets are limited, children do not participate in fishing with adults. Through both interviews and observations, the researchers noted that young males spend a lot of time watching adult males fish, but there is no direct instruction. They found that children of around 10 years old would borrow the adult's fishing equipment and experiment on their own without any adult supervision. By age 12, most children were able to fish on their own. It appears that this is how they learn the social rules regarding how to behave with people of higher rank and how the chief system works on the island. There is no direct instruction about the system until high school, but children observe parents and overhear their conversations about the system. The researchers gave a multiple choice test of basic knowledge about the chief system to 46 12-year-olds and found that the majority of the children had a broad understanding of the concepts and the rituals of their society. Okay. So this is a study that kind of shows that enculturation process, again, through that social cognitive learning. They are observing their parents, and then they are able to know their cultural norms based off of their observations of their parents. Now, there are some limitations to this study. Obviously, it's not very generalizable because it's just focused on one culture, just the Samoan village. It's not focused on a worldwide perspective. So we don't know if the same results would be applied to us here in America, or let's say in Europe, Africa, any other country really, or continent. It'd be tough for us to tell. So that's a good study. I'd make you fill out an organizer if we were in school, but you don't have to do that. So you can give a little fist pump for that one. But all right, culture and cognition. So how does culture affect our thinking? Okay. What researchers have found in psychology is that it is universal, and it's not something that one culture is better at than another, or has the ability to do and one culture doesn't, and that's anyone can remember anything. There are all kinds of research that shows that we all have the ability to remember things. What's different culture to culture then, because as you guys know, and I'm sure you've seen, there are cultures that are better at remembering things than others, or they remember things differently than others. So what ends up being different is these two things. First one is strategies to remember, so how they go about trying to memorize or remember things. And then the second is the emphasis on what to remember. Again, if you think back to our cultural dimensions, our beliefs, values, ideologies, all of that stuff, different cultures are going to value and focus on different things. Hey, think about flashbulb memories. Okay, Carmen, what are flashbulb memories? Exactly right, Carmen. High emotional events that lead to very, very, very vivid memories. Okay, so when we're looking at flashbulb memories, if you're looking at an individualistic society, they might really, really remember what happened to them during that high emotional event. Whereas a collectivist society might focus more on how it impacted their community. Okay, so that's kind of the difference between how this emphasis on what to remember impacts our memory. So we're going to do a quick experiment. I'm actually going to go back so no one's cheating. Okay, this is when you're going to need your pen and paper. So I'm going to show you a box here in a minute, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I got a timer right here on my phone. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to try and memorize as many of the words as you can. Okay. If you want to write them down, you can write them down. That's fine. If you want to just say them in your head, however you want to do it, but you have 30 seconds to get as many words as you can. Okay, and the 30 seconds is going to start right now. Ten seconds. All right, and stop. Okay, now your job is to list as many words as you can find, or that you can remember from the slide, the list on the previous slide. So go ahead, just pause the video, list as many of you can remember, and then as soon as you are done listing as many of you can remember, just play the video. All right, so however many number you got, okay, there's probably a lot of you got it different numbers. There's 20 total ones you could get. If you did get 20, put it in the comments on this video, and I'll have some sort of special prize for you when we get back. But so what I want you to think about now is, what was your strategy to study these words? Okay, so did you maybe group them? So if we go back to our list here, were you maybe trying to focus on just one group at a time? Were you trying to find similarities between the groups? Were you trying to, like if you look, these are all foods, okay? So maybe you'd focus on all of the foods, and maybe these are all articles of clothing, okay? Some of you might not have known what some of these things are. Like, I don't know if you knew what this one was. I don't know if you knew what this one was. You might not know what these ones are, okay? So what shapes that and what affects our memory is, first off, okay, our strategy to study these words. you might have gone about it in different ways. And different cultures have different strategies on how they remember things. Okay, the second one is which words do you remember better than others? Again, you're probably going to remember ones that are more culturally relevant to you. If you guys think back to our IA in December, we found that we remember things that are more relevant to us. So if we don't know what a cutlass is, like, we're not going to remember what that is. If we don't know what trousers are, we're not going to spend much time on that. But we know what a hat is. Okay, we know what a shirt is. Like, you guys wear them every single day. So those things that are valuable to us and that we know and are relevant to our culture, we remember better. So again, strategy is different culture to culture, and what we value or what we emphasize is different culture to culture, and those shape how we remember things. So that was kind of just a little experiment to show that. So, all right, last one is culture and identity. This one's pretty simple. Okay, so these norms, dimensions, and schema form who we are as a person. Okay, we go through life and we start picking things we like. Okay, we follow the norms of our culture, and those end up shaping who we are. I know we did an activity where I had you guys write what your identity was, what words describe your identity, and I'm sure many of them can be traced back to whatever your culture is. Okay, again, if we have no exposure to other cultures, then we have no acculturation, which would result in everyone behaving the exact same way in their culture. Okay, if you as Reagan students had no exposure to any other school at all ever, and Reagan was the only school you knew, you would only behave with the cultural norms that Reagan had. Okay, but there's a lot of other things that play into that. Okay, one is the fact that you go home at the end of every day and you have culture from your parents, you have friends at other schools, and you see what other schools do. There's things like media where you see other schools, different parts of the world. Some of you came from different schools, and so there's all kinds of different things that lead to you shaping your identity and your culture. So those things come together, and you end up really creating an identity based on all of your enculturation and acculturation. So again, just a little note here: exposure to other cultures, we have new cognitive processes and change our behavior. And so it is very important, and I think it is something that I think we very much value at Reagan. You might disagree with me, but I think it's pretty solid, and that we really do a lot to give some sort of exposure to a lot of different cultures. You think about things like all of our different clubs. I know we have ASU, BSU, we have Yes Club, we have Hispanic Heritage Program, we have, I know the Asian Student Union was going to put one on. Like, we have all kinds of stuff where we really get a look at different cultures at our school, and I think that's a very valuable thing, because then we go through this acculturation process and we can take things from other cultures that we like. So, all right, so my little task for you guys, I'm going to have you do, I'll have a Google Dropbox open up on Google Classroom that you can put this in. But I would like you guys, I know this is challenging right now, but think creatively, think outside the box. Okay, you are going to interview someone from a culture that is different from yours. And again, culture is not necessarily like your heritage. It can be, and I'd encourage you guys maybe to look at just heritage, but what is different culture to culture within any group? What's someone that's different than you in some way? You're going to interview them about their culture and how it impacts their behavior. Okay, just a brief interview. Send them a Zoom invite, call them up on your cell phone, send them an email, whatever it is. But just reach out to somebody that you know. If you're struggling to find someone and you really want to do this, let me know. I'd be happy to set you up with somebody that you could talk to. I know a lot of people that would be more than willing to help you with this. So, but you're going to interview them. You can make the questions, but I want you thinking about, ask them about their cultural norms, those dimensions. Okay, ask them, how much does your culture value authority? Okay, are you more individualistic or collectivist in terms of your values? Those kind of questions will go a long ways, and I think it'll help you really understand how culture's different and see those different values play out. And then ask them about how they learn the behaviors of their culture. So think about like the example from the research article. Okay, those kids all learn their culture by just watching their elders. Okay, other cultures learn in different ways. How did they learn their cultural norms? You can type up your answers just in a Google Doc if you want. If you want to make like a really nice looking presentation on like Canva or a video, whatever it is, it does not really matter to me. I just want you guys to kind of go through this activity. So I will look forward to seeing those. Again, I'll put a Dropbox on Google Classroom. Feel free to just drop it in. and that'll be something really, really kind of cool. And it'll be a good way for you guys to get some social interaction while we're all safer at home. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will be putting out more of these to come. So I appreciate you guys watching it. If you have any questions or anything, you can send me an email, send me a message on Remind. I'll be happy to get back to you. I know next week is technically spring break. I'll probably still put out a video just because, I mean, nothing is mandatory. So if you want to take advantage of it, you feel like you've already been on spring break, you can go ahead and watch it. But that's culture and behavior. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I will let you know, and I'll post something on Google Classroom when I have another video ready. So, yep, look forward to seeing these, and enjoy the rest of your night. Stay safe, stay inside, and I miss you guys. Hope we get to see each other soon.